Good evening, folks. Welcome to the very first episode, if you ignore the test that went out last night, of Makers Waffle.
Yeah.
And with myself, Andy Pugh, and my very good friend, Jamie Reeder. So that's about as far as we've planned, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
I tell you, like we've done quite a bit of planning this week. We've done quite a lot of thinking, a lot of discussion, and
A lot of it's been very last minute. We've sort of had an idea a few days ago, and then here we are a few days later.
So it's kind of thanks the guys from Makers International for all they've done over the last 4.5 years and for making way for us.
Absolutely.
As we come in and take over the podcast world. Joe Rogan's next, and don't know how you. I think that'll be there.
There's not much left of the planet to conquer then at that point.
Well, no, that's true, isn't it? I mean, he has biggest podcast. If we don't aim for him here, then I reckon, give it a month or so before we kind of take on his mantle as podcast king of the world.
Yeah, we've got to get one or two guests on first, haven't we?
Yes, that's probably would be a good idea.
And to that 4 weeks, and then
and to that end of the year, this very much as some of the posts I've been putting up are sort of suggesting we want to make this about the maker community. This is definitely going to be a show which revolves around having guests. And that is the one thing we've done quite a lot of planning for at the moment. There is a very, very, very long list of people we would like to ask on. And we have started asking people, and we have had a number of people that have said yes. So I think we've got definitely over a year's worth of people on the potentials list, and we've certainly got a couple of months worth of people that we want to bring on. Some of whom are definitely
chatting in here tonight.
In the chat, yes. But we're not going to tell you which ones of you, because you just have to wait and see till we ask you.
Some of you are on the definite we want you on the show list, and some of you are on the not a chance in hell list. We'll let you fight among who's on.
Which there is actually that list. we have a list of poor souls who are not going to come on unless they offer huge amounts of money.
Of course.
But we obviously, for purposes of being professional and of discretion and integrity, we're not going to share that list with anyone unless there's huge amounts of money involved.
I suppose we should also point out that one of the things we kind of, as our background in general, as makers and as people, because we have quite a diverse kind of set of interests, it's not going to be, I'm afraid, just one sort of type of maker. It's not going to be woodworkers every week, or metalworkers every week, or 3D printing every week. We'll at least alternate those three.
Yes, I think one of the things. I think one of the reasons why we get on so well is that our making kind of activities are quite diverse. And quite a lot in common. I think different levels of. We're not. You're a far better 3D printer person than I am, mostly because I don't do enough of it. Which obviously is an inside joke there. But we have a variety of experiences in a variety of making skills. So, and we have connections into different parts of the making community. So the idea is that we will try and bring in some people that perhaps are less well known.
Yeah. And I think as well, we've both sort of established ourselves as being able to talk for England.
And Wales.
And Wales and several other countries around the world lumped in as well. But ultimately we wanted to sort of make it about the community and people you might not be familiar with, and their stories, their creative outlets, and that sort of thing. We're hoping to have this as more of a waffle, more of a discussion conversation, rather than specifically like interviews, set questions. Obviously,
because there are some very good podcasts that already do that.
Exactly.
There's no point copying what they've done.
Yeah.
Rasmus says we can't talk for Norway.
No.
Yeah.
Let the Danes do that themselves.
I think one of the things I do say, you've mentioned already the community several times. This, for me, this Sunday evening slot has for quite a few years now. I don't even want to think about how many years, but this Sunday evening slot has, for me, become such an important part of my week. And the names that are propping up now in the comments, people that some of whom I've met, some of whom I haven't, but I consider, the majority of them. There's a couple that I'm not 100% sure about, but I consider the majority of them friends, and certainly a part of the community. And I think it's nice that I think it's nice. I think it's, for me, it's important that this Sunday evening carries on, because otherwise I'd have to do the ironing and things like that. And I would miss this dearly if it disappeared.
I think ultimately we'd be able to come up with some sort of solution to get around you having to do the ironing, but this just works out as a really nice kind of succinct.
This is far better.
Continuation,
it's much better for my mental health than ironing, and it's certainly for the winter. It's much warmer than being in the Tinkerage, which is an ice box for several months of the year. So that's kind of the important reason for a slot on this evening to carry on, and it will go out as a podcast midweek, hopefully. Download the video, edit out some of the waffle and the technical difficulties at the start, and submit it to various podcast providers of choice. More details once I've sorted out that technical hurdle.
I think it's safe to say that the only date we're going to be setting for as a sort of a time slot for this is this Sunday evening slot. When podcast will arrive in the week, but we're not going to set a date, because we know that if you set a Wednesday date and it doesn't happen, that we know what you lot are like. And,
Thursday becomes late Wednesday. Yeah,
and the next thing is Saturday, and
podcasts arriving on Saturday if they're due on Wednesday. I mean, that's shocking, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't want that to happen, really. Yeah.
I suppose what we need to do first and foremost is to address the elephant in the room and say that Andy and I are actually the net result of sort of diverging timelines of what happens when you both put the same set of headphones on.
Yes.
Every possible outcome, it's split in opposite directions, and ended up with large beard, not much hair, large body size, as opposed to Andy's complete direct opposite.
Grey. Yeah, I took the long timeline around. I'm only 23, so it's just been a hard few
very
years.
Hard paper round, isn't it?
So I think this is the kind of the first episode of Makers Waffle. Before we perhaps introduce ourselves, and for those that perhaps don't know us, people listening in the future, I know there's a huge number of people in the audience watching live who know us and know us quite well, but there'll be people listening, hopefully, who don't, and so we will introduce ourselves, but perhaps we should explain. Jamie, perhaps you might care to explain why we've decided to call this Makers Waffle.
That's a very good idea.
Is it just that we love waffles?
Well, I mean, who doesn't? Especially a guy of my size, you have to love waffles. It's just I was going to say it's a staple, but other food groups are available. Ultimately, as we are makers, and the kind of the central theme around makers over the last few years has been Makers Central, bringing it back around. And ultimately, back at the first Maker Central, which is 2018.
It was. Yes, it was 2018. I was unable to go.
Indeed. So in the run up to that, Adam England, who is Make Build Fix on Instagram, reached out to a number of people he was following and decided to bring us all together in a WhatsApp group, so that then when we all arrived at this new fancy event that was being hosted for us makers, we'd at least have people we'd interacted with, familiar faces. I'm the guy with the red carnation, that kind of thing. So we could have people to speak to that we'd spoken to before, and that brought a lot of us together, made some fantastic sort of lifelong friendships. And then after the event, we sort of continued chatting and realised that we quite enjoyed chatting absolute rubbish. And then sort of in the run up to the next year, more people joined the WhatsApp group again, and more friendships were forged. And then after the 2019 event, a lot of people sort of said, "You don't have to chat lots in here. The phone's constantly going. There's always notifications. You're just always waffling along." So in an effort to sort of not ruin any of the friendships that we'd made, a number of us decided to branch off into another WhatsApp group that ended up becoming Makers Waffle. And that's been
Which
running.
is still going today.
It's still going today. Still absolutely hammering our phones on a daily basis with just about every possible topic under the sun. So we thought, what better way to honour our friends than steal the name?
Yeah. And we've got it trademarked now, so that they can't get any good money from it.
It's all right, because what we have said is a sort of a bargaining tool, so we don't have to pay royalties. We're just going to get them all on as guests over the next few months, whether they like it or not. Yes,
we haven't given them any choice about that. So they are on the guest list. They're on the list of people who will be on, whether they like it or not. And there will be a significant number of other people who will be asked as well. So it's not just going to be a case of get our 10 mates on. And how many are in the group, Jamie? I can't remember how many exactly are in the group. It's about 10 or 12.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. It's enough.
It's enough that generates hundreds of chat comments, some hours, and even more some days. But certainly for me, part of the thing that I have found most important from discovering the maker community is the community bit more than the maker bit. I think the maker just brings us together, but it's the community and the friends that have become very important to me. And,
absolutely, it's a common interest that kind of breeds the friendships.
Yeah, and it's great to be able to kind of chat about anything maker and non-maker related. Hopefully we can kind of honour that nicely. Right, so we've covered the waffle, why we waffle. So perhaps we should waffle a little bit about who we are.
Well, you may as well start then, Andy. Because
we'll start. Yes, I mean, if you want the full details, go to my other podcast, Thoughts on the Tinkerage, and listen to, I think it was episode 1 or episode 2, where I kind of gave my kind of entire story, and I think that's quite a length. That's about 45 minutes, and that was trying to cut it short. So I could cut it long, but I shall attempt.
We haven't got enough time tonight.
Yeah, we haven't got enough time to do that tonight. So I shall attempt to give you the kind of the potted history. I think making has always been a part of my life. I can remember with my dad when I was probably about 4, trying to. He was doing more of it than I was. Cut a hole in a toy tractor so that I could have a key, because I wanted a key so I could start the tractor up. And had sort of toolkits from every Christmas. There were different tools, from the toy ones at kind of 4 or 5 through to proper ones by the time I was a preteen and going into sort of teenage. And so making has always been there. We weren't a rich family. We made stuff because it was Blue Peter would come on. If you wanted an Action Man scene, you built it. You didn't. We couldn't afford to buy it. We saved up the cereal boxes and watched Blue Peter and for the inspiration and made things. Constantly fixing things, constantly just making. Never really kind of going, just a woodworker or just a kind of metalworker. It was like, this needs fixing. What is it? How do we do it? So it was always there, and even then through, I think university time, I kind of got more into outdoor sports, but there was always kind of things to repair. There's always kind of, oh look, I've ripped a hole in this rucksack or this waterproof jacket. I can't afford to replace it, so I have to fix it. I want to, I think I was probably about 21, 22. I was working in industry and I wanted a pull-up bar so I could improve my climbing. So built a frame in the garden to kind of do pull-ups on, with a couple of different levels, so you kind of work up to different levels and different types of holds, just made from some 2x4s, and that was just what it was. And then after a few years, getting a bit older, you get a house, you get rather than renting or living at home, you start getting your own house. Even when you're renting, you've got to fix things.
Of course.
You don't want to pay other people to do something, especially the sort of cost of some of the jobs. So you acquire tools, and particularly if you buy your first house, then the tool collection starts big time, doesn't it? And the workshop arrives. My first workshop was probably about the same size as the Tinkerage is now, so not big, but it was longer but narrower. So there's only room for a bench on one side. But you start kind of getting things like a miter saw, and you get the electric drills. So rather than having a couple of tools stuck under the stairs in the house, you start acquiring the need for benches and all those sort of things. And it's slowly sort of built up, and other hobbies acquired. I was just mentioning earlier, so one of the things we're going to sort of talk about is sort of attention, what grabs our attention, rather so much than sort of shout outs. And going back quite a few years now, I got into silver jewelry and making silverwork. And I'm tempted to get back in because of a program, which I'll mention later rather than sort of spoiling it now. So you acquire tools for that, and it's amazing how quickly you acquire an awful lot of tools. And I've been fortunate as well to have people in my life who've kind of gone, oh, you need a tool, here you go, here's a spare. And I think our wedding presents included a significant number of tools. So I still got my jigsaw. I've got a very nice Bosch jigsaw, which is one of my wedding presents. It has served me well, and it shall serve me well for quite a few more years. And that kind of was my route into making it. As in, it's always been there, and it's lots of DIY. I've done 3 kitchens. I may or may not have done some electrical rewiring where needed in houses. Of course, obviously checked afterwards by people with the necessary certification.
As long as it's
one does
competent, that's fine. That's fine.
And so it's always been there. As the maker community was not something I knew about. I watched This Old House and the New Yankee Workshop on TV a couple of decades ago, several decades ago, and I was fascinated by it, but I didn't know there was whole communities of people that were involved in it until probably about 10 years ago, when I was in the school that I was at the time teaching. I was teaching physics. One of the assistant head teachers approached me one afternoon and said, the electronics teacher is retiring. There's still a class that have a year to go. Can you teach electronics? And I said, well, as it happens, I have a sitting guild in electronics, and obviously being a physics teacher, I'm pretty good with it. And yes, I can. So they said, okay, good. So from September, you're going to be in the technology department as well as in the physics department. So I kind of thought, okay, well, I've got summer to get myself up to speed with my electronics, and it was electronic products. So it was like you're making the enclosures. And then I discovered things like Make Magazine and Maker Fairs, and discovered that actually there's an awful lot of people who like to make things. I took my kids, quite small at the time, to a mini Maker Fair in Brighton, and people making remotely operated vehicles, and there was a Dalek, remote controlled Dalek out the back, and my kids made, and I saw somewhere, I think on there on my monitor, or was it that side? Yeah, it's that side. There's a little Fimo cupcake that one of them made that I've still got, and it was just amazing. We spent this day walking around I can't remember the location now. It was the place with the dome in Brighton, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people who all enjoyed making stuff, and it was like, oh, there's these people.
I'm not
and
alone.
I discovered YouTube a little bit. Mostly it was about kind of finding out more for electronics and getting kind of up to speed with a few things that I wasn't as up to speed with as I perhaps needed to be. And then a few years ago, my back went kaput. I was a maker. I was constantly making things. If things were thrown out in school, I would be the person who would grab it. I still have in one of my sheds 2 Van de Graaff generators that are broken and beyond use, but maybe one day will become useful. But those who know, who have listened to Thoughts from Tinkerage or know me, know that I have a back issue. I have degenerative disc disease as a result of industrial injury 25 years ago. And in 2017, it got to the point where I couldn't carry on working, not as a teacher. There's too much sitting, too much leaning forward, bending over. I was not able to do my job. And I spent several weeks at a time, often just lying on the floor. And there is only so much daytime TV you can watch. So after the first day of that, actually it was several days, I discovered Money for Nothing, which is a BBC programme where people throw stuff away at a tip. Somebody comes along, goes, "Oh, can we do something with that?" They take it away, completely turn it into something different, and then sell it. And the person who threw it away originally gets the profit, which some of them give to charity and some of them go out to have a nice slap-up dinner. And I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting, this is fun, this is thing. But I ran out of those. Then worked out how to get YouTube on my TV and did that and started kind of finding channels. And there was this guy in America with an AK-47 guitar type thing and various other things. I think Mr. DiResta is the gateway drug into the maker community for so many.
Yes, I think it would have been a similar sort of time frame that I discovered Jimmy as well.
And from that, I discovered a variety of other YouTube makers, and that led me on to podcasts, which when I kind of started moving again, and which was often very slow, and I needed some sort of distraction. So I kind of got an old iPod working again and discovered podcasts. I think Making It was the first one that I listened to, kind of the back catalogue. And then discovered that there was this whole community of people in the UK as well. I think it was the summer of 2017 that a young gentleman called Mr. Alex Halfpenny reached out to me, and a young lady called Sophie Lewis reached out to me, and we kind of started YouTube channels at about the same time, and the rest is, as they say, history.
That pair have got a lot to answer for.
They have indeed. Very nice people I consider friends. Don't speak to them enough. And it was like, And then you get all the twists and turns. So Caveman Carl's just mentioned kind of finding the Lord of the Jews via Adam Savage. And I'd known about Adam Savage for a long time from his work on Mythbusters, which
absolutely, yeah,
a brilliant program and a great program. I'd all been the Scrappy Challenge and Robot Wars and all that in the days. And some people listening may be old enough to remember things like the Great Egg Race and Beat That Einstein, which have kind of preceded Scrapheap Challenge as kind of, oh, let's build things. I love those things. And now I think the maker community has become a really important part of my life, and yeah, I try to be as actively involved as I can when I can, even when I can't make. The maker community keeps me in touch with making, and yeah, I love making. I love doing stuff, but I can't always do it. But I can nearly always be part of the community.
Yeah, it's just absorbing everything else that everyone else is doing. I mean, that's Mr. Andy Berkey's philosophy, isn't it? See more, make better. You
exactly
interact with friends, make connections, see what everyone else is making, how they're all, sort of progressing on their journey, and at least you can sort of make vicariously via them.
Yeah. And then obviously Maker Central, I did have tickets for the first Maker Central, but I had to give them away because I couldn't make it. Because I just couldn't travel. But then I made it to the second one and made even more friends. And essentially here we are now, following then the emergence of Makers Waffle. And it's an important part of my daily life. If I had to choose between kind of Makers Waffle or Instagram and YouTube, I'd probably pick Makers Waffle. I'd miss YouTube, I'd miss Instagram, but I think in terms of seeing things made, it's just the way it is, and it's become part of my life. I wouldn't want it any other way. So I think that was my. I think, what was that? About 10 minutes.
That sounds about right.
Pretty good going for me, I think. So your turn, Mr. Reader.
Very much the abridged version, I think. But I suppose before we, the royal we, before I go into mine, just to remind everyone to look after your backs, because again, commonality between the two of us. Mine's absolutely mullered as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of parallels between the two of us. For those who don't already know, the pair of us, I've also been an educator as well. Some of you have had the pleasure of having lots of knowledge rammed in your face, whether or not you asked for it. But no, my background, a very similar sort of thing of making has always been a way of life. My dad's a musician, but did an apprenticeship as electrical engineer. So growing up, we were always taking things apart, repairing things. It was around a lot of audio equipment and things. So whenever any of that was broken, it was right, come over here, son. Let's have a look at how this works. So there's a lot of that kind of mentality of repairing or improving or that sort of thing. I've got two older half brothers as well who, while I was growing up, they were hydraulic engineers. So again, it was always welding, making things, repairing things. Again, can spend time with them. It would be all that kind of thing. It's very much a case of if you wanted something, you found a way to make it, or that was just a way of life. Again, the same, like progressing on. Again, moving out into, like you said before, moving into your own place, and then I need to hang a shelf. How do I hang a shelf? Right, so I need to go and do this. I need to go and do that. And that was, I think that's most makers' sort of gateway drug, isn't it? Is DIY or repairing things or that kind of thing. So very, very similar here.
Definitely.
But I mean, my teen years were probably my formative years for making, because it was, parents separated when I was a bit younger, so I went to live with my mum in my sort of teens. So man of the house, learned to do stuff, and then it was, I've got a PC, I need to stick a CD writer in it, so let's figure out how to do this. And then it's that kind of gradual progression of just the next baby step forwards, the next kind of what's the next thing we do, what's the next thing we take apart, figure out how it works, play with this material. This thing's finally knackered. I've taken it apart, can't get it back together right, but I know how it works. What can I turn the parts into? That kind of recycling, upcycling.
Oh, definitely. Taking elements, taking apart. I mean, when I was, I think I was often as a smaller kid, kind of preteen, given old things and told, if you want to take it apart, you can take it apart.
Absolutely. Any bit of random audio equipment, or you get a new VCR. How does this work? What can I take out of it? And of course, like with a dad with an electronics background, it's like, here you go, son. This thing's knackered. Let's take the motors out. Let's do this. Let's kind of see what we can turn it into, and that kind of thing. So yeah, again, that sort of formative journey that a lot of us have of kind of acquiring tools, like you say, and acquiring skills through breaking stuff. And again, my sort of professional background, I started my IT business up when I was 15. So again, that was sort of similar sort of thing of acquired knowledge from breaking stuff. And the more things I broke with computers, the more I had to learn to fix them, and then you end up in that kind of vicious cycle of just being forced to learn things and acquire skills and see what you can transfer quickly. And someone goes, "Oh, this is broken. I don't know how to fix it. Can you have a look?" I've never seen that before in my life, but sod it, I'll have a go. So it's very much the same sort of thing. But so professionally, I then, while doing IT, I was then went to college and did a load of other stuff as well, and ended up with a kind of a split career. So I've been a CAD technician for some years now, but running IT at the same time. So quite often when I sort of turn up at a company doing one of those things and ultimately end up as the other. So a number of places I've started off as a lowly CAD bloke drawing building plans or something like that, and ended up sort of making my way into fixing some IT stuff and transferring some skills, and then make myself a new job there. So that kind of constant progression, to making your life, I suppose, it's the slight make a cliche, I suppose, but it's you pick up opportunities and sort of I think generally most makers tend to be quite enthusiastic about any sort of opportunity to learn a new skill or try new material or
buy new tools.
Exactly that. Obviously there's a little bit you can sort of see all the way around here is acquired tools and skills and knowledge, and some very fancy other podcast sign that another friend and maker made, and all this kind of stuff. But the similar sort of thing of finding YouTube, of being fed up of daytime TV when damaged my back. What can I do that's not rubbish telly? Let's have a look in the this weird thing that people keep talking about YouTube, and finding people like Jay Bates and David DeResta and April and Nick Ferry and these guys that start making stuff, and then again same thing, Scrappy Challenge and Mythbusters and these things, kind of it's all inspiration that push you down that path. But no, I for my socials, I'm known as the Custom Cave, and before my current sort of daytime profession that I'm at now, a friend and I decided to start up the Custom Cave, doing similar sort of thing of jewelry, and we were actually doing steampunk stuff at the time, so
cool.
Copper and brass stuff, and with a tech twist to making steampunk mice and keyboards and USB hubs and flash drives and things like that. So that sort of gave us a kind of a step into the maker world, and then realised there's a lot more people, that were you say doing similar stuff. Hang on, we're not alone. We're not just weirdos in a shed down the bottom of the garden, playing with bits of found materials and buying a £3 mouse from the internet and making it into something that's slightly better or slightly less bad, I suppose.
Yeah.
And again, same sort of thing. You start reaching out and thinking, that person's doing some cool stuff. I'll leave a comment there, or seeing someone posting about this weird thing called Instagram. Well, what the hell's that? And then you realise that the more it sort of aggregates the things that you like, you end up with this sudden saturation level of wow, there's loads of people that are nice people and approachable and got some amazing skills and
helpful.
Yeah. And then you're getting friends with a lot of this rebel.
Yeah, and then the kind of we suddenly discover that we're part of a community and there's people that think the same way that we do.
I suppose if we've made our kind of our way to here, and then we've made a rod for our own back starting this podcast.
Yes, just a little bit, but
can you get any other maker related cliches in, maybe?
Well, we're gonna be super rich, aren't we? The money's gonna start pouring in next week. Now it works. I mean, Joe Rogan, he's does a 3-hour podcast and makes millions. So
maybe
happy enough to do an hour one and make a few thousand. That'd be
as we said last night in our test. I think I don't think reaching an hour is going to be the struggle for us. I think capping it at an hour is going to be the struggle.
Yeah, I think that certainly might be the case. But we'll do our best to try and keep it kind of a sensible amount of time. We'll get organised. We'll get a routine going at some point. I think that'll be the trick, won't it? Get a formatting.
Yeah.
Alan wants us to have a rant, but
I was going to say, I think looking at the chat, I think Alan and Rich might end up on the other list.
Oh, we might start a third list.
Well, I suppose a good question then is what's been grabbing your attention recently?
Yes, and just kind of sort of Phil, as I mentioned briefly, I think earlier, and I do forget sometimes what things I've talked about. So always got to point out if I have already said something 5 times. My students used to kind of not always tell me that, just because they then could sit there and not have to think about whatever it was I was saying. But that was their loss, perhaps. We're sort of thinking about attention. The kind of it's. We live in an attention economy, don't we? We've got everything vying for our attention, and whether that's things online like YouTube or Instagram, or whether that's the things on our benches. So I think sort of talking about
things just pumped straight into your face.
Yeah. For the benefit of those that are listening only, Jamie has just attached to his spectacles a little viewfinder monitor that's about a centimetre across that will pop into his vision.
For the audio listeners only.
Yes. It allows him to kind of watch whatever he likes without anyone else seeing it. Very useful. I can imagine it many times. So we're going to, rather than kind of maybe having a section where we just do sort of shout outs or a section where we talk about what we've done this week, I've been thinking that we might look more in terms of what has been grabbing our attention, which will probably in future episodes kind of narrow down perhaps to sort of shorter periods. But as is the first one, we kind of going to think about things maybe over the last couple of months or even longer. Because obviously we're at hopefully the tail end of a pandemic has done wonders for our attention and the ability to get things done or not. In some ways, it's been very, very positive in that. We had one of the things you did, Jamie, last year was to run via Fools with Tools, a school for fools. I think it was.
It was indeed,
and a nice, good course on Fusion 360, which certainly took my skills from wallowing around, kind of not really knowing what I'm doing, to actually being able to do something with Fusion, which obviously help as you're a CAD professional as part of your daytime job. Yeah,
Guilty as
some of
charged.
us a good way to start. So my attention this week, what's been grabbing my attention? Well, I've had a few things arrive in the post this week, which was a nice little thing. Your very good self sent me some digital pens, which I still have yet to try and get working.
Yeah, I'm afraid you can blame our good Australian friend Dan for that. He put the idea into my head.
Blame me for lots of things.
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea, so I better not tell him now.
I have tried. They do at least one of them writes in ink, but I haven't actually tried the digital part of it yet. It's charged, but I need to explore the user manual that's buried in on it. Again, finding that time for the attention. Our other good friend Duncan Band from the Little Hobby Shop sent me for the benefit of the viewers, a Jesmonite. Let's put that up there a bit closer to the camera, so those that are watching can actually see a Jesmonite coaster. Which has actually got one of my drawings from last year's Inktober embedded in it, which is a beautiful piece. It's super smooth, great material. I think it's a material I certainly want to explore one day. And John Tansley, John Made It, sent me a thank you gift for helping him out with some work on his website. Something I perhaps could go into sort of slightly professionally is kind of doing marking. I suppose that's after 20-odd year career in teaching, kind of going into kind of proof editing, things like that. So I helped him out with his website, and he sent me a very nice YouTube live subscriber counter with my logo laser etched on the front. I'll post pictures of those. There is just kind of jump into an aside. One of the things I've spent the last couple of days doing is setting up social media for Makers Waffle, and one of those is an Instagram account, and I shall post some pictures of things to the Instagram account so people can see those at some point. I think pretty much all of the social media that we're approaching will be called Makers Waffle. Without any apostrophes, just to make it easy, because you don't put the apostrophe in the wrong place. So we just basically say, let's ignore the apostrophe.
Exactly.
It's better to be ignored than, from a grammatical point of view, than to put it in the wrong place.
Exactly. As two educators who are fanatical about being total pedants, we thought if we just get it set off the hop that there's no apostrophe, then we can't get really annoyed at anyone who gets it wrong.
Yeah. It's kind of that was an active decision rather than it's leaving it out. So we'll just get that up front in case anyone kind of goes, well, there should be an apostrophe. Yes, perhaps they should. Yes, you got that right. So those are three things that grabbed my attention. Attention-wise, also, I still have a lot of things on my bench that need working on. I have a friend in the village has given me some cameras that he uses. He's a chimney sweep. He has a number of, essentially they're fishing cameras, kind of a waterproof camera on the end of a cable, which he applies to his chimney rods to investigate the state of the chimneys, and two of them are broken. So the idea is hopefully I can get one working from it. So that's been on my bench for a little while. I've been building some shelves for one of my kids. That's going to be pretty special. There's going to be a video for that. But I'm waiting for some non-windy weather because we've got spray painting to do.
Has that shelf project been going on for any length of time? By any chance?
Only since March last year. Yeah. It had about 9 months where it was just half a dozen pieces of wood already cut to length stuck in the tinkerage. It's now sitting in the conservatory waiting for good enough weather to spray paint outside, because certain members of the household don't like me spray painting inside the house.
Can't get the staff, can you?
No, not really. Other than that, I picked up a nice little writing box, kind of the old-fashioned writing box. You open them up, it has a platform that's at an angle, formed by the lid and the main part of the box, kind of an older thing, a bric-a-brac. It's in a bit of a state, so that's going to get fixed at some point. And the drawing, I suppose, is the thing that I'm kind of people are knowing me for at the moment. My Instagram is just full of daily drawings, which I haven't done
Very,
today's
very
yet.
pretty ones.
Yeah, which have also kind of gone down the line of being single line drawings. That's a part of a project which Rob Prickly Sauce Thomas started after Inktober. So it started in November. Once a month, he puts up a list of prompts, daily prompts, and there's a group of us that do a drawing associated with that prompt. I was going to leave out the M, and we post a picture every day. There's a variety of different styles. A few people are using sort of digital art. Some people doing it by hand. Like Rob himself, he's doing a sort of a single poster every month with each of his drawings added each day. And that's been a really good thing for me to do. My drawing has got a lot better. Although I kind of seem to have tricked myself into a corner of doing single line drawings. I started doing, I'm going to do a week of it, and then by the end of the week, people were going, I really like this, this is good. I'd like to follow the line every day. And I kind of felt guilty if I didn't do it. So I've done single line drawings every day, and it's a good little exercise.
I suppose it's a good workout for the brain.
Yeah, it gives me 2 drawings actually, because I do a sketch, normal-ish sketch first, and then I have to spend probably anywhere between 5 minutes and 5 hours trying to work out how to make one line go around this drawing, and then I kind of hopefully try and get it up before midnight, or sometimes after midnight. But it's been good.
Yeah.
And the last one, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I might get back into silver jewelry. I watched All That Glitters on BBC, which was a jewelry making reality kick somebody off every week program, and it kind of I might dig out myself stuff. Anyway, your attention. What's been grabbing your attention rather than me waffling for ages?
Well, I mean, it's the best place for it, isn't it? I've actually managed to do a little bit of leather work recently, or rather, I've been doing some leather work for what feels like months at this point, but it's not, it's weeks. But doing a prop for a friend of a friend for a cosplay type thing, but it's a film prop. So it's been a belt, a fairly significant, chunky belt. So it's been a little bit
sort of wide.
Yeah, it's about 93 mil deep.
Oh, wow.
The belt, so it's a monster, but it's very specifically shaped to the buckle as well.
So nearly 4 inches for the American.
Yes. Trend. Sorry, yeah, I need to include the freedom units, don't we? But, yeah, Johnny is absolutely right, making me laugh. Yeah, the buckle's quite an annoying sort of shape. So trying to get the belt so that when it closes, the guy's 4 is basically going to fit it and make the hole for the pin directly on himself and make it so that the 2 ends basically meet behind the buckle. So trying to solve that problem and trying to get it to be permanently attached to the buckle, and it was a bit kind of dicey. You know, if I'd got it wrong, it would have been a whole. You couldn't recover from it, so you'd have to spend all the time to make the full new piece. So it's a little bit kind of it was a bit of a stretch to do, because it was slightly outside my comfort zone for what I've done so far leatherwork wise. Although I've been doing it for years, it's not something I've collectively spent enough time on to just go and tackle a project straight away. There's a bit of R&D involved and things. So I managed to actually get that finished today. That's been kind of a load off, because it was a little bit of a sort of niggling stress, just making sure that I got it right. But as it happens, from the photos and everything, the guy's incredibly happy with it, and has already sort of put some orders in for accoutrement to go on it, and holsters, and a future kind of bigger and better version with more involved and stuff like that. So that's a nice sort of confidence boost. I've also started printing a thing called a hovelin, which is a hovelin is a fully 3D printable violin. So my daughter plays violin and is changing to a new school. She's going into secondary school in September, so has to give her school issue violin back. So I thought, rather than being, a cheapskate and scouring the second-hand shops to get her something to tide her over summer, I thought I'll spend far too many hours digging around the internet to try and find some sort of suitable project, and discover this Hovelin. You buy the machine heads to do the tuning pegs at the top, and obviously strings, bow, and a carbon fiber rod, and then everything else is printed. So you print the bridge, print the body, print the neck, and then push everything together, and then you feed this carbon fiber rod down the neck to sort of stiffen everything up. So I've sort of made a start on that, got the parts, and then just need to do the several hours of printing. It's actually a fun few days of running the printer. But talking of printer, I have ready to go in the post some test parts for the lovely Mr. John Williams, who's in the chat there. So these are sort of replacement parts for his bike light. So fingers crossed, we've sort of collaborated on getting this kind of solving the problem for him, I suppose.
Brilliant.
So doing that, and sort of just recovering a little bit from a lot of particularly busy kind of work times over the last few months. Sort of dug back into a bit of a guilty pleasure of sort of reaction videos on YouTube. Sort of later on in the evening when everyone else is falling asleep, and I just need something to sort of not think too much on. Seeing some random people from other countries trying British food, or musicians listening to music they've never heard before, and things like that. So that's been a nice little guilty pleasure indulgence, I suppose. That, and then Ed China has started a mechanic who used to be on a TV show, Wheeler Dealers, has recently sort of stuck two fingers up to the normal TV business, similar to the way Jimmy DeResta did, and has basically gone and got himself a load of sponsors and is doing a weekly YouTube sort of segment, which is fantastic, beautifully produced, and really, really informative. It's something that you can just sort of spend a bit of time just absorbing and enjoying. And then chatting to some wonderful friends recently, just kind of keeping our minds active and stuff. So as I sort of pointed out, the wonderful Sophie Lewis. So we're both huge Marvel nerds. So Sophie's been doing some fantastic painting.
The
WandaVision one, but she finished the Scarlet Witch today, and she's, hopefully I'm not spoiling too much, but she's going to be doing another bit of a Marvel series, which I'm very, very excited to see. So that's been the main things that have been grabbing my attention recently. But unfortunately, it's as boring as it is. Before all that, it's just been months of relentless work. We're sort of very fortunate in the pandemic that I've been able to keep my job, and we've only got busier. So it's unfortunately my making has dwindled a little of late, but the collection of tools is still forever growing. So that's all that really matters, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's what happens with tools, isn't it? They just keep attracting. They're magnetic in a way. They kind of more tools have to come in, and you kind of till you get a critical mass.
Absolutely.
Then that kind of until you then run out of space, and then you kind of have to decide to try and get rid of some.
No, you just find areas of the garden you can build outbuildings in. At least that's what I found.
Yeah, I might have two sheds, neither of which I can get into. I can't get into one, but they're too far away for power, unfortunately, or sensibly power. They're not good enough condition. And
as Rob has just pointed out there, the universal Jamie's law of N+1, whether that's 3D printers or tools or outbuildings or sheds or whatever, it's the way to live.
Unfortunately, when you get to a certain age, it adds to ailments as well. I don't want to give you the
Been
bad
there
news
for-
about that one, but yeah.
Oh, I've been there for a couple of decades. Mate.
I think,
I suppose we haven't really planned an outro as such.
but yeah, I mean, we're just gone past 10 UK time.
Yeah, so we sort of reached the
I think
hour
the
mark.
plan, something we've been discussing, is having maybe perhaps some sort of after show, and that might be something for the live viewers, as kind of styled by Makers International, which doesn't necessarily make its way into the audio podcast. It might be that there is a after show that makes it to the audio podcast that people who only listen to the podcast maybe have to pay the privilege to listen to. Again, it seems to be popular, particularly if there's secret things. Yeah, there's a number of people, aren't there, that kind of have their podcasts with now we're only going to share the secrets or the juicy topics in the after show, and only if you're a patron. So we may or may not do that. Yeah,
I think the biggest worry that if we do that, given our group of friends who are in the chat, that some of them might not quite get the concept of Patreon and might just start sending us wonderfully interesting images in the hope that that's payment enough. I think there's definitely a few sort of firemen, knife makers, and people of that ilk that will start sending photos.
Yeah,
through.
nice kind of a 10-inch chef's knife, a nice blade would definitely be a good way of getting a free copy of an RSS feed. Yeah, that's something to think about.
The question, Dave, is this is a cider.
Proper cider, that is. Dave being American.
Yeah, alcoholic. Fancy juice. Andy's is just a pint of vodka.
Yeah, that's what Kazza said. Yeah, in a
there you go. Yeah.
in a Doombar glass. Best glass I have. My favourite glass.
It's a festival squishy plastic glass. Make it a plastic.
I think maybe to round up today, we have as we mentioned earlier, we have a long list of guests that we want to have on. We've already spoken to a few people, and we haven't got dates apart from one. That's for next week. Next week, we will have our good friend Christopher Smith, the Woodgeneer. We've decided to get him on early.
We can only apologise now.
So yes, we shall get Chris on next week. We'll talk about Chris next week. Yeah, we won't start talking about him now, because then otherwise he'll just.
This episode's all about us.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to feel too. We don't need to be big-headed about how much we might or might not like him, etc. We have a couple of people that some of you in the chat will know, but some of you might not. The queen of 3D printing, the worldwide queen, I'd say, of 3D printing. It's Billy. I was going to say Billy Piper then, but it's not Billy Piper. It's Billy Rubin. I'm not going to argue. Billy Piper wants to come on. If she wants to come on, we can have a chat. I'm quite happy to have a chat with her.
Yeah, fair enough.
My youngest would be particularly happy to have a Doctor Who star on the chat. That would be a very good thing to do. But no, it's Miss Billy Rubin, who's from Australia.
Yes, she will be joining us at some point.
Wonderful person.
Faye from Geeky Faye Arts, who again has become a friend for both Andy and I. So she's also reluctantly agreed to come and chat with us at some point.
Yeah, she's doing some amazing stuff at the moment. Lots of 3D printing. She's an amazing artist, amazing videographer.
Yeah, definitely.
And just starting to get into electronics, which is quite interesting. I think she'll soon. She's very much a beginner with electronics, but I think it won't take long for her to really get into it. We've also got Kez and Phil from Spirit and Bear, who some of you may have seen on the Virtual Craft Festival yesterday. Kez was making a Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, a bit of scroll saw work and pyrography. So quite excited to have Kez on. A home educating family, I believe, which is something that we as a family do.
So and I was as well. So again, another random parallel. Yeah,
we are the same person, just different timelines. Yeah. I sort of shrunk. It's the discs. I used to be 6 foot as well. I was 6 foot, but yeah, the discs shrunk. Yeah, good 6 inches.
Nice try.
Yeah, not quite. So yeah, we haven't really got the format for the ending sorted out. We just
as is apparent.
Yeah. So yeah, but we like to waffle. It's like yesterday on the test. We kind of said, well, we were on for about 5 minutes. Said, right, let's finish now, and then 10 minutes later, we're still going, which could well happen tonight if we're not careful.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
So I think, we can round off as perhaps something we don't intend to do is every week say you can find us on, but as it is the first one, I think we should. So, Jamie, where can people find you?
Currently on Instagram is about the only place I really am, as the Custom Cave. How about you, Andy?
I'm lots of places. Too many places, probably, to be honest. YouTube, I am mainly Tales from the Tinkerage. I do occasionally put out videos, but sometimes it's more regularly than others. I've got some ideas for some, hopefully with the better weather. And I'm getting old. I don't work well in the cold, but yeah, if the weather gets better, I should be able to do more work, and I can sort of work outside. So Tales from Tinkerage on YouTube. On Instagram, Andy C. Pugh, but I also have this Thoughts on the Tinkerage, which is my occasional podcast, which can be found on Anchor and also actually on YouTube, but I'm a bit behind on uploading the videos there. Thoughts on the Tinkerage is kind of me literally just rambling about various thoughts, the kind of life, the universe, and everything. Twitter, I'm Andy CPU. Instagram, Andy CPU. I'm also on YouTube as Andy Pugh. So I'm lots of places, and there are actually significantly more. And maybe at some point when we get the Makers Waffle webpage and we have our biographies up, I'll put a full list of them.
Mine with one line and yours with a column.
Yeah, there's a few Discord servers that kind of have introduction sections, and most people are like 3 or 4 lines, and it's me with like a page and a half, kind of thinking about the character limit, and having to sort of short.
You've got to hit the limit, haven't you?
Yeah, I have done several times.
It's a target.
So Tales from Tinkerage, anything the Tinkerage, apart from the one down on Instagram down in New Zealand, which is a kind of makerspace repair shop type place, which is very interesting. And I can't prove whether I had Tinkerage as a name before or after they did. So I'm going to claim it before because I can. Just can't prove it. I think that's probably enough. If you want to reach out to us, most of you in the chat listening to this bit will probably get edited out, but most of you in the chat know how to get hold of us on the tubes, on Facebook or various things. Yeah, if you've got kind of questions or things that you want us to talk about, or the people you want to suggest as guests, if you want to offer your services as a guest, then please do reach out, and we'll add you to one or other of the lists. But we won't tell you until we invite you which list you're on. Yeah, or not.
I suppose the suggestions welcome after tonight, other than replacing either or both of the hosts.
Feedback is welcome. We will take it on board and maybe ignore it, maybe have a rant about it.
We're not allowed to have a rant about it though, because that would steal from another recently defunct podcast.
Yes,
it's unfair to nick a rant section.
We can't really do rants. Yeah, we want to try and make things our own. We don't want to kind of copy all the best bits from all the other podcasts that might be out and about.
Exactly.
So, I think that's it. I think that's it, isn't it? Hour and 13 minutes and counting, according to my schedule. But most people have missed the first 3 minutes. Some it's probably about an hour and 10 because I forgot to click the button that said public, which is hidden away.
We technically missed the first 3 minutes there.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for listening. Those that are listening live, thank you very much. We really do appreciate. Sorry we couldn't
Absolutely.
respond to all the comments. Hopefully you've had a nice time. We do appreciate you watching and listening. Look out for the audio, and if you could subscribe, there is a Makers Waffle YouTube channel, which currently has, I think, 3 or 4 subscribers. Hopefully, future episodes will be from there, not just giving me the wonderful hours, so I can eventually reach monetization. So it will take place in its own place. That will be hopefully next week with Chris and Jamie. So I think it's a goodbye from him and
goodbye from me.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Cheers all.